Good morning. What's up, everybody? Feeling good? Memorial Day weekend, celebrating our seniors. So many fun things.
So many things happening this weekend. And the fact that you came to church, you prioritized being here in God's house. Good job, y'all. Super proud of you.
Good job. You made it. I know that they talked about camp. If you are a parent of a junior high or a high schooler, I'm telling you, get your kid to camp.
Yeah, it's true.
Get your kid there. It'll change their life. It'll be the greatest week of their life. Even if they complain before they go.
That's true.
When they're old, they'll be like, Mom, thank you for sending me that week. It changed the trajectory of my whole life.
That's right. They'll say exactly like that, too, I bet.
They will.
They will.
They will. That's what I said to my mom.
I know. I love it.
Dude,
it's
so good. How many of you were here last Sunday? Big announcement Sunday.
Come on, y'all.
Wow. Such a fun and emotional week.
Extremely emotional week weekend. This week, we felt a little bit like, whew, did that even happen? Like, how did that even, whoa, man, you tired? Like, I'm tired, man.
Yeah.
But it was incredible to get to celebrate with all of you what God has done and what God is doing. And guess what? There's more.
There's more.
So, man, today we're excited to get to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, and as you could tell from the video, we waste no time at making a space ours. And so we've started a little renovation project over there at the new location. But man, we got a building, everybody.
Come on,
we got a building. And so we announced that last week and showed you a photo of the new building that we got. And man, it was so fun to finally have that done. We got the keys, they're in hand.
That's right.
Feeling good.
And then last Sunday night, many of you came. You know, what I loved was that the same number of people that showed up on Sunday showed up on Sunday night at our worship night at the new building. And man, that was such an exciting time to get to come and worship together and celebrate what God is doing, but to thank Him.
Not only did we worship together, but we had the opportunity to get a tour of the building.
That's
true. And so everybody who came, walked in, got a map. We were able to walk around, see the layout, what's there. We got to talk about a couple of different renovation things, and it was fun.
I heard from a few people, though, that were sad because they didn't get to go. Maybe they had graduations out of town, or they were not here and present, and they were like, I really wanted to go see the building. Well, guess what? We're going to make some opportunity for you so that you can.
Yes.
So today at 5:30, we'll have elders at the building that you can go. They'll give you a map. They'll let you in. You can have a tour of the building. Or if Sundays is not the best day for you, then this Thursday night at 6:30, the doors will also be open and available to you so that you can go, be there, tour it, walk around. We've already started some renovations, so, make sure you wear closed-toed shoes. Just kidding.
Yeah.
But it'll be super fun. The address, they're putting it up on the screen here in a minute so you can see it, know where it is, and Google it and show up.
And man, our heart is that you'd be able to go and see it before we move in on a Sunday. We're working hard to do a couple little renovations, so it feels a little bit more like us. We had said that when you walk in, it feels like you're kind of in a brown paper bag. It's got brown floor and brown walls and black ceiling, and so we're working a little of those things out.
Behind the scenes, he kept saying, it looks like a Wendy's in here.
It looks like a 1980s Wendy's is what it kind of reminded me of. And so we were like, let's work on that a little bit. And if you aren't familiar with where it is, hopefully you take a picture of the address.
Yeah.
It's right at 287 and I-20. Good God, come on, somebody.
That's right.
I think he's up to something. It's right off Little Road. There's an Albertsons there. There's a, what else? There's
Wells Fargo.
There's a Chick-fil-A. There's a new
Dutch
coffee.
Bros.
Dutch Bros. If you know where Mac's restaurant is, like right behind that, go check it out, man. Super, super excited about that. But important information coming. Are you ready? Okay, they're ready.
They're super ready. Okay, so we're here at the Pig today, and we'll be here actually 3 weeks. This week, next week, and the week after that.
Yeah.
June 11th will be our final Sunday here at the Pig. 9:15 and 11 will continue with those service times here at the Pig for the next 3 weeks.
But then our first Sunday at the new home is going to be on the 18th, Father's Day. Come on, dads.
And it's important information for this service specifically because as we move over to the Arlington campus, we will now be having our service times at 9 and 11. So y'all got to get here 15 minutes earlier.
Come on.
9 o'clock, which gives us plenty of space, plenty of time. You know, how many of you know there's times in this service where God is clearly moving in worship?
Right.
But we got me down on the front row going, come on, guys, we got to get out of here. We got another service coming. And so we're going to allow ourselves to have that open space for the Holy Spirit to do what He wants to do.
But not only that, with the new building, there's a gigantic lobby, and we want there to be time for everybody to see each other. You know, with this little tiny baby lobby that we've got here, I've heard from so many people, well, I never get to even see my friends friends from the next service because we're in and we're out and it's hot and we don't want to stand under the tent and it's nice, but it's a million degrees in Texas.
Exactly.
And so we want to give some time for that crossover, for everybody to see some cross-pollination.
Okay.
Come on now.
I like it.
All my single people should be thankful. Come on. Because you don't know who's in the second service.
That's true.
You know what I'm saying?
You might be missing your destiny because you haven't got to meet them yet, but now you will.
Okay, so that means 3 more weeks here at the Pig, and then we'll be over there on Father's Day. Be there,
right.
be there, be there.
Yep.
There's some details for youth, too.
Yeah, and then the youth will be meeting that Wednesday as their first Wednesday at the new building. And so they're going to be at the North Campus. You may have heard, like, we're almost completely moved out of our North Campus this week, but youth will continue to meet there on Wednesday nights for the next few weeks, and then on the 21st be there.
Yeah, June 21st, first Wednesday night.
It's going to be so fun.
Super pumped. Okay, if you're new to More Church, and maybe last week was your first week or this week was your first week, you're here in a really cool but unique season.
True.
And so we haven't had like traditional sermons last week or obviously this week, but it's because we want to take some time as a family to talk about what God's up to and the story of what he's been doing.
This is the biggest holy shift that God has really allowed to happen here in this house in the history of More Church.
I heard a couple of the new people say, what did she say?
I know. I've been doing good. Ain't nobody gonna win on me in the poll breaking the rules. But the holy shift of More Church, of us moving, this is a big deal.
Yeah.
And so we're taking some time to move and talk about it.
Okay.
All right, go.
Well, so now what? We have bought a building.
That's right.
Well, what does that mean? Well, what do we do now? So, yay, we're leaving the Pig, but what does that mean? Now, we gave a lot of information at the worship night,
That's
if
true.
you were at the worship night. And then actually this week on Tuesday, we released our podcast, The Tug of More, that we do every Tuesday. And we gave a lot of information on the details of the closing and the story and the behind the scenes. So if you're curious about any of that, you can't go back to worship night. We did not live stream that, but you can watch the podcast.
That's true.
Or today, we want to give a little bit more of the story of what God's been doing.
You know, it's incredible as we talk about June 11 being the last Sunday here at the Pig, because what's true is back in 2020, the Sunday before Father's Day was actually the first Sunday here at the Pig. We had Party at the Pig. I don't know if any of you were here for that. Any of y'all remember Party at the Pig? Y'all, it was super fun.
Yeah.
But it's incredible that it's been exactly 3 years. God is funny like that with me. He really makes dates and times and like numbers line up. I don't know why, but it happens all the time. And so you did some research about 3.
Well, it's incredible that exactly to the Sunday we've been here 3 years.
Right.
We're not that good of leaders. Like, it's not that we were like, okay, here's what we're going to do. We're going to get the building and the closing date. It's just that how God has kind of given us a wink and a nod of like, I'm in this.
Right.
I got you. 3 all throughout the Bible. Come on, we can clap God up.
On.
God
He's
wants
way
to give
smarter
us
than us, y'all.
God wants to give us affirmation.
That's right.
That he's in it. And so biblically, the number 3, it just represents divine wholeness and completion.
Yeah.
That Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit.
Right.
I could go all through the Bible of how 3 represents completion. And it feels like 3 years here is a complete timeline for us. And 3 years at the Pig means that we've been here for 156 Sundays.
Good grief.
156 Sundays. Guys, do you realize that for 156 times, we've had an army of people show up at 6 a.m. to do setup? 156 times.
It means that 156 times when they showed up at 6 a.m., they were just praying and hoping and believing that Wester would be unlocked for them to unload the trailers in, right?
For 156 times, I've prepped a sermon in a costume closet in the back of this building.
Yeah.
Full of lined in costumes, all dusty. It's not good.
For 156 Sundays, Pastor Rachel and I have sat on that front row making sure our makeup looked good before service started, because there's not a green room. There's not really a good bathroom, but we got to make sure, like, we didn't wake up like this. Like, you woke up like that. We did not wake up like this.
I looked exactly like this at 3 a.m., and I look like it right now.
No, right.
For 156 Sundays, our refreshment team, Quintel and Nicole, shout
Come
out.
on.
Have get this, had to make coffee at another location.
Right.
Put the coffee or lemonade or whatever you drink in their car in those big Tupperware, Cambro, I don't know what they're called.
That's
things.
right, Cambro.
Drive them over here 156 times. It's crazy.
156 times we walked up these steps, all the way, these non-ADA compliant steps, into the tiniest lobby in America, right? Into the giantest auditorium. Like 156 times.
156 times you got out of your car and hoped a golf cart would drive by to pick your tail up. You know, you like, oh man, it's raining or it's hot. I hope that they come and see me today.
156 weeks we have hoped and prayed that we would not get a phone call, that we were kicked
yes.
out of the building, maybe because of something we said or he said, or something that the computer double booked us, or that we did not have it scheduled like we thought we had it scheduled.
156 times our setup team unrolled carpets in our kids' areas.
Good grief.
I just want you to imagine. We have to build rooms
That's
every
true.
single Sunday for our kids' ministry.
156 times, that means that Amarisa has charged the iPads at her house, then put them in her car on Sunday morning and brought them over here so that the kids could get checked in properly and be safe properly.
It's crazy. Every Sunday, we show up and there's just like stuff already on the stage because they'd be doing plays and stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like they just got like, Medusas, something or other, or like little, Peter Pan, something. Right now, if you drive around the pig, there's like the front of a boat that we had to shove out. And there's just like pipe cleaners and what are they called?
Yeah.
Like foam stuff, spray painted.
I don't know.
It all looks amazing.
Pool noodles.
It looks amazing.
Good
Pool
job.
noodles, yeah. I had said something previously, and we got an email about it.
You said something very nice. Good job.
They do a great job at all their prop
For
creation.
156 times, our media team has had to transport things. Like Easton, we've had camera batteries and like all kind of camera gear at our house overnight. And then, the band gets here and they hope, they pray, they believe the anointing will be on the confidence monitor for it to show up and the wires to work so they know the right words to the songs whenever they lead us in worship, because I don't know the words. I got to look on the screen. They got to know the words too, right?
Every Sunday, this drum cage over here, there's a giant shelf over on this side, and Terry Burleson and some guys mounted a winch in the ceiling, and we winch it up out of the way so we can, 156 weeks, we're like, God, please let that winch keep working.
Jesus. Don't let it break and fall and bust somebody's
we just bought
head.
some hardware at Ace Hardware. God, don't let it break up out of the ceiling.
156 times our sound booth team, our media team, our production team, they have had to mix the sound in this acoustically unappreciated room that does not work well, with a hollow floor and the chords that are different, and every week people texting them, it's too loud, it's too quiet, I can't hear the drums, the bass is too much, I can't do it, I need earplugs. 156 times, y'all, and guess what? They didn't quit. They didn't leave. They didn't walk out the door.
Most of them still here.
Most of them are here. We're giving a shout out to the ones who are still here. That's right.
It's amazing. If you have a baby over there right now, that baby is laying in a crib nice and peaceful. But for 156 weeks, that crib got took apart and put in a trailer and a box and driven to storage. It's crazy to think that for 3 years we've been here.
Yeah.
But that God said it's time.
Right.
It's time for a move. It's time for a shift.
That's right.
Not just a shift, but a holy shift.
A holy shift. And so now what, right? Now we look at it and we go, what opportunity do we have now that we no longer have to have all that stress?
Yeah, that our energy isn't pushed. It means that now our attention can be focused on people, not portable objects.
Yeah, yeah.
We don't have to focus on the stuff. We can focus on the salvations of people as they come into this place.
No, it's incredible because now our pastors can actually pastor.
Yeah.
Like this morning, I'm a mom also, depleted from a graduation weekend, an emotional time with my family, and yet Enrique and Brady are just pastoring the junk out of me right here on this stage. But now their energy can actually go to continuing to be those incredible pastors that they are, rather than the leaders that have to make sure everything gets set up and torn down.
Now the carpet will be down in the kids' rooms.
Like attached to the floor.
Like an actual church. The speakers will just be mounted in the ceiling.
Right.
And we can adjust the sound on Thursday.
Right.
Not just from 6 a.m. to when everybody shows up.
Now the trailers will be used when we go load things to go do outreach in the community. Y'all, it's amazing when we go to other church leader events, and these other church pastor leader people, they don't know how to pull trailers. Every single person on our team knows how to hook up a trailer, load a trailer, pull a trailer, unhook a trailer, lock a trailer, because we've been doing it so long. But now we'll be using those trailers to go out into the community and reach people.
Our refreshment team will be able to make coffee and serve it in the same building.
What?
That's gonna be able to happen.
We will actually be the ones in charge of the air conditioning and the heating. We will actually be in charge of if the lights come on or if they don't, if the Wi-Fi works. That'll all be actually our responsibility.
When their kids ministry prints curriculum, they'll print curriculum and be able to put it in the room during their work week instead of just on Sunday morning and hope it didn't fly out the window of their car during setup.
And you know, it'll be amazing because now nobody in the community is going to be like looking over our shoulder and then calling us and complaining because of making Jesus issues political issues that we were not trying to make political issues. We were just trying to make them be Jesus issues. And so then now we will just get to do what God's called us to do and speak the words that God's called us to speak and not have to be concerned about offending this person or that person or the right person, the wrong person.
Over the last 3 years, there's been so many issues that I've wanted to speak to biblically, but we have Big Brother while we're renting a government facility.
Which we love and we're grateful for and all the things, but also, see what I did there?
And so we're thankful to be able to have that freedom to step into a new season.
Okay.
So that's how it's going to affect us. But it's also going to affect you.
Yeah.
This move is going to affect you, and it's going to affect your family. And so what we want to talk about is, how is this going to affect you?
Right.
I think the most commonly asked question in human history is, how does this affect me? It's a question we ask all the time. How does this affect me?
Right.
You can see it in all the rage on social media. There's new apartments going in. Well, how does this affect me? I don't want a gas station there. Well, how does it affect me? Everything that we look at in life, and it's a really good question, because if you're getting chased by a tiger, you should ask, how does this affect me? I'm out of here, right?
Right?
It's a natural question for us. But in a big move, we're all asking, how does this affect me?
Yeah, and our hope is that in this big move, in this holy shift, that you will make the shift with us.
Right.
We hope and pray that everyone makes the shift and goes with us to the new space, to the new location, that even when you ask the question, how does this affect me, your answer supersedes any feelings you have, but actually allows you to go, I'm so excited to step into it, right?
I hope that when you're asking, how does it affect me, you look down and see the shift still on your shoes.
Yeah.
Look at what God's been doing in my life. Look at what he's been doing through more church in our family. And let's not let a little thing like a move make us lose our shift.
Well, I think it's a really great opportunity we have right now to learn some life lessons that we can really take into the rest of our life.
Right.
That God wants to teach us something in the holy shift, because the truth is life is full of shifting opportunities. Life is full of opportunity moments where we can make a shift. That right now, those graduates that we prayed over this morning, they're in an opportunity moment to make a decision and make a shift. And we can either follow our feelings or we can follow our faith.
Come on.
A lot of times in our life, we're faced with different questions, decisions, opportunities. Sometimes we have so many shifting opportunities, we don't really know the right decision to make. And if we're not careful, we'll start to follow our feelings. It's what's happening with the world around us right now. It's why it's all a mess. It's why you turn on the news and you just got to turn it right back off, because everybody's just following their feelings instead of saying, hey, God, what would you have me do? What faith step would you have me take? I look back over my life, there's so many times when I could have followed my feelings, but I'm really grateful that the Holy Spirit spoke loud enough that most of the time, not all the time, but most of the time, I let my faith lead me.
Yeah.
And our hope and our prayer as we've been talking today is really that in this moment, in this holy shift moment, that we would learn to not be a church that follows our feelings, but that we would always be a church that follows our faith.
Yeah.
That we would be people, individuals, each one of us. Moms and dads, we have an opportunity to help teach our kids in this season what it looks like to follow our faith first.
Yeah.
To allow that to be the thing that leads us and the decisions we make in our life, not our feelings.
But at that moment of decision, of choosing faith or feelings, at that moment of decision is fear.
It's true.
Because stepping out into faith is always full of fear.
Right.
How is this going to look? It's change. It's hard. And can I tell you, change is hard.
Right.
Change is hard.
Yeah.
And we can find ourselves in that moment of decision, and it's easy to just let our feelings of fear dictate our steps of faith.
Absolutely. And change is hard. We're creatures of habit. We want to do the same things, right?
Yeah.
It takes, what do they say, 21 days to create a new habit. We've been doing the same habit here for 156 weeks.
Yeah.
And so, like, no matter who you are, change is difficult.
It's easy because we just get on autopilot.
Right.
And so, like, we're going to move over to the new building, but there will be a Sunday where you accidentally start driving here.
Right.
Have you ever done that? You're like supposed to go home, but then you're like driving to work. You're like, wait, what am I doing? You know, it's easy to just follow those patterns. I do it. When I go to certain restaurants, I don't even need the menu because I already know what I'm going to order. Come on, somebody. I already know I'm getting fajitas, and yes, I do want some. I do want some queso with
You
that.
want a
Yes, ma'am.
sunset
Yeah.
style?
I do want some sunset style
That's
fajitas.
right.
Good God! And so it's easy to become a creature of habit.
Right.
And then when something's different, we're frustrated that it's changed.
You know, in the week that I shared in the Holy Shift, it was called Keep Your Shift Together. I talked about the story of the Israelites and how God provided manna for them in the wilderness. Yeah. And, you know, the fact of the matter is, what I didn't talk about is this truth is, the Israelites complained about the manna kind of almost instantly after they got it.
Yeah.
Like, God did this miraculous thing. He delivered them from slavery to going into the promised land, and he provided food on the ground every morning. Can you imagine if Chick-fil-A was just outside your door every morning? I know some of y'all do that with DoorDash because you're paying $17 for delivery, but Jesus, God did it for free, right? It was just there, and yet they complained.
The Israelites had been slaves for 400 years, and after just about a month in the desert, here's what it says. It says, the Israelites began to crave the good things of Egypt. And the people of Israel also began to complain. Oh, for some meat, they exclaimed. We remember the fish we used to eat for free. They're slaves,
right?
But they're calling it free in Egypt. We had all the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic we wanted, but now our appetites are gone. All we ever see is this manna.
Right. It's crazy because God is doing a miracle, delivering them out of slavery into freedom and into the promised land. Every morning he's providing food for them, and yet they're complaining because they miss their slave food.
Right. They're so focused on the lack of fish that they can't see the shift that God has for them.
Right.
I want you to get this. They're about to walk into the promised land,
right,
that is defined as the land flowing with milk and honey. This is how the land is defined. Milk means that there's cattle.
Right.
It means there's meat there. And honey means that there's bees. And bees means that there's produce there.
Right.
They're complaining about their free slave fish in this moment because they don't have vision to see what God has for them in the next moment.
Right.
So what do we need to learn?
Right.
We need to understand that there's going to be moments that we go over to a new building and we miss what we had. But remember the promise. Remember that God is taking us to something that is more than we can expect. Let me just tell you what's going to happen, because it happened to me and Rachel. Rachel and I are driving to worship night. And do you know what happened? We hit every red light. Am I telling you, we hit every red light. And then a person at one of the red lights is on their phone texting and doesn't go through. So now I start getting a little frustrated, but I'm keeping my cool. I'm driving chill. And then we get there and somebody cuts me off, then stops, gives me the double bird as they drive by.
It really happened.
I'm telling you, it's going to happen to you too.
Right.
All I'm saying is, you're going to be driving there, and you're going to be like, I don't know, man, I'm driving, now I'm on I-20, I don't know, where am I going? And someone's going to flip you off, and you're going to hit every single. Miss the fish, but I can't remember the promise of what God has for me.
Right.
More church is about to shift in a way that you can't imagine, because the energy of set up and tear down is about to go into ministry.
Right. And so we have to learn from the Israelites, because the truth is they forgot the shift that was on their shoes.
Yeah.
And you can't forget the shift that's on your shoes as we step into what's next, as we step into the more that God has for us, as we make this holy shift.
And so my pastor's heart is for you to think, well, what's going to happen to you? Like in the move, what's going to happen to you?
Right.
I know that you live in the neighborhood across the street and that you came here because you saw a sign. Or I know that you live down by the water park, or you live in Midlothian, and that there's this question of, am I willing to make the move? And my prayer for you is that, you don't lose your shift.
Don't let your fear cause you to go with your feelings, not your faith.
Yeah.
Don't allow yourself to say, I'm going to miss my shift because I got scared shiftless.
Yeah, and I don't want you to miss your milk and honey.
Right.
I don't want you and your family to miss the things that God has for you. So the title of the sermon today is, Don't Be Scared Shiftless. Come on, somebody. Don't be scared shiftless. As you get scared about a change, and listen, I know Like here, we walk in, we're creatures of habit. I see my friends, the Kriegers. They walk in, and I know the row that they sit in. They sit right over here. Chris is like, yeah, dog, this is my row. Well, Chris, what's going to happen at the new building? Right. Chris is going to walk in, and someone's going to be in the 6th row, 4th seat in, and he's going to go, oh, man, my seat. I lost my seat.
No,
I know Chris. Yeah. Chris, my boy, so I can pick on him. But I'm saying it's going to be easy to walk into a new space.
Right.
And guess what? It's going to feel different.
Right.
It's a new space.
Right.
Where's the bathroom? Oh, here's the kids check-in.
Yeah.
It's a new space. But let's not be so scared that we lose our shift.
No, and we know that it's a holy shift. We know that this is not just a shift, just a move, just something that just a fluke. But this is a holy shift, and so that's why we're stepping into it.
And I want you to really hear that. We know that this is the right move.
Yeah.
As we've been praying and seeking God's direction for us, it's not that we didn't have any other options.
Right.
It's not that we felt painted into a corner and this is the only thing we could do. After praying, we feel like, God, this is where he's leading us. This is the promised land that he's calling us to, and it's what he's called. And let's just talk about it. It's been hard for me.
Right.
I've been Mr. Mansfield for 13 years.
Right.
For 13 years, I've stood on a stage and say, we're going to reach this city.
Yeah.
I was an ambassador with the Chamber of Commerce, voted
that
president
red
for
vest or red
I'm telling you, I've been
real.
in every building. I know every person that's elected.
Yeah.
I feel like this is where God has had us.
Right.
And as I was praying, God said, Truston, you're not leaving Mansfield. I'm expanding you into Arlington.
Right.
It's not that we're not loving and reaching the people here. It's that he's positioning us. Mansfield has 80,000 people, whereas Arlington has 390,000 people.
Right.
And the potential to continue to reach people is incredible.
And I feel like God wants us to understand that sometimes we make a holy shift and we're scared because we feel like maybe we won't be safe. When we follow our feelings, it's because we want to stay safe. The Israelites are in the wilderness. God did not remove like all the scorpions, right? And like the desertness of the, it's still
desertness.
It's still desertness, that's not a word, but it's fine. Of the wilderness, it was still a wilderness. But the truth is, when we follow our faith, we might not always be safe, but we'll always be secure.
That's right.
We'll always be secure in what God has called us to in the Father's hands. He's got the whole world in his hands.
He got the whole world.
I was waiting. I knew you were going to do it.
In his hands.
He's got you in his hands. He's got Chris and V&A's family in his hands. That's why they know that when they go there and the seat isn't the same seat, they're going to be secure in his hands. And what the temptation is in our fear, we are going to follow our feelings, so we're just going to stay safe. I've lived in Mansfield now 14 years, and my friends from home will call me. I'm not kidding. If I'm lying, I'm dying. At least once a year, I get a call from somebody who says, how did you make that decision? How did you step out and leave your family and come and go somewhere different that God told you? Because we've been presented with this opportunity. We've been presented with this thing, and we feel like it's God, but it's so scary to make that step. And I'm like, you're right. It is scary, and I can't promise you you'll be safe. I can't promise you you'll have like friends every single day, and your kids will never cry, and you'll never miss home. I can't promise you that, but I can promise you if God's telling you to do it, you'll be secure.
That's right.
That you might walk through some hard things, but he's overcome. And what we have to learn and understand is that we may not always be perfectly safe. We still might have a scorpion bite, but we're secure in the Father's hands.
It's good, Whit. You got to take protection off the throne.
You got to take your protection off the throne. If you don't, you're just going to be staying on the throne.
And so that takes courage.
Yeah.
It takes courage to step into something new.
Absolutely. It's your verse. It's your life verse. Like Joshua 1:9, have I not commanded you? God says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid, more church. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And we've been speaking that verse since 2018 when we first bought land. But the truth is, he's been with us everywhere we go.
Yeah.
He's been with us here at the Pig. He's been with us at the Center. He was with us at Aristide. He was with us at Matlock. And he will be with us as we make this move.
You know, in the podcast, come on, we can clap that up. Joshua's
got to go to the promised land.
You know, in the podcast, we talked a lot about the journey of trying to find what the right next step was.
Yeah.
And how God, he shows you this and opens your eyes to that, and then you realize you'll say yes to the thing he's called you to.
Yeah.
And in the background of my mind the whole time was God saying, wherever you go, I'm with you.
Yeah.
wherever you go, whatever move we make, I'm with you.
Yeah.
And we just, I'm talking to myself, I have to just relax. Like, because there's a part of me that wants to get up here and arm wrestle each one of you to talk you into going with us. I want to be like, well, come on, tell me the reasons you're not going to leave. Come on, I'm gonna logically get, but I have to relax and know that God's with me and God's with you, that you're going to hear from God, that I've heard from God, and that he said it's time to go.
That's right.
And as I was reading through Joshua's story, it says this, Joshua 1, verse 10, 11. Pastor Whitney just read verse 9. It's literally the next verse. It says, so Joshua ordered the officers to go to the people. And he says, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready, because in 3 days, we got 3 more weeks here. In 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan here and go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own.
Yeah.
That God is positioning us for a new thing. We've been saying new era and didn't all the way even know what it meant.
Right.
But it meant that God's moving us into something new.
Yeah, yeah. And so I can imagine in this, you're like, well, how did you know? And how can I know? Like, how can you know, yes, with this move, with this holy shift, but like we said, there's opportunities in our life all the time. How can we know when it's a holy shift, when God is moving us into something new?
Yeah, well, I've had so many people over the years say, well, when should I leave this job and go to that job? When should I move from this city or that city? As our seniors, how do I know what school I should be going to?
Right.
Or should I stay home? We just have a couple points if you're taking notes, a couple thoughts. A holy shift, number one, is preceded by a painful process.
Yeah.
There's regularly a painful process before a shift. Because many times you won't even be thinking about a shift if everything is hunky-dory.
Right.
If everything is smooth and easy, sometimes you're not even looking for a shift to take place.
Yeah, and the truth is we have an opportunity to either listen to the pain and like learn from the pain, or to ignore the pain. Amanda is a doctor also as well as pastor, and she always talks about pain is an identifier that something needs to change, that you need to go to the doctor, you need to go see. But we have to listen and learn from the pain. Go, God, what are you trying to tell us here? What are you showing us in this? What are you teaching me in my heart? What are you trying to do in me before you do it through me?
Yeah, and so before we were ready to make a building change, God needed some changes to happen in us.
Yeah.
To get off the throne.
Right.
That we had to get off the throne, and the pain was the catalyst to the thing that helped us to understand we need to get off the throne. Now, I'm not saying that God sent the pain.
No, right.
I'm saying that the pain came for a myriad of reasons. Bad decisions or fleshly minded decisions. Just we're humans. We live in a fallen world. We had hurt we had church hurt from some relationships that we had. We had the land swap fall through and the rug pulled out from under us. It felt like the grace had been lifting, which we did a whole podcast on, the grace is lifted. The grace had been lifted from being at this place.
Yeah.
The pain of the setup and tear down of the issues here, it started to get heavier. And what used to be a joy, we get to do this, was like, oh my God, help me please,
Help us do this.
Yeah.
And there's an inner wrestling that happens sometimes in that painful process. And so a lot of times your holy shift is preceded by a painful process. Yeah.
The contraction started.
Yeah.
I've never had a baby, but I watched some babies be born, and I remember the contractions. Like, wait, what? We got to go right now? And so sometimes the contractions will help you see that there's something new coming.
Yeah.
Did I do good with that one?
That was very good.
That's that's a more Whitney illustration.
No, it's
but,
true. It was in the notes and I missed it. My God.
Oh, no.
You did a good job. It's true. Second one is undeniable alteration of your expectation.
Oof, this is a big sentence, but important point.
Oftentimes, a holy shift shows up with an undeniable alteration of your expectation. We all have expectations of what we think things will look like, what we want things to be, what the future is going to hold.
Yeah.
But when there is an undeniable alteration, that means that God has shifted it, God has changed it. Then sometimes you have to look at it and understand, oh, it may not be what I wanted, but it may be what God is speaking.
And you can only allow that when you'll get your plan off the throne.
It's true.
When your plan isn't exactly step by step what you thought, that you realize that, man, this is a holy shift.
Yeah.
This is not exactly what I planned, but God's in this. And God starts to leave heavenly breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
Y'all remember Hansel and Gretel? You're leaving the breadcrumbs in the wilderness. Sometimes God will give you a breadcrumb just enough to help you see, I'm in this. This is a holy shift that I'm a part of. I know it looks different than you thought it was going to look, son. I know your business doesn't look like what you thought it was going to look. I know your marriage right now doesn't look like how you thought it was going to look, but I'm in it.
Right.
I'm with her. I'm with you. I'm growing it.
Right.
Yeah.
And all throughout the last few years, God's been doing that very strategically and specifically for us and for this house. There's been, like you said, we had some church hurt where God was very, very clearly identifying for us, hey, you're connected to some networks and to some organizations that are actually just sideways energy stealing from what God is wanting to speak. And I know you thought that that's where you were going to go, what you're going to be connected to forever, and the people you were going to be in relationship with, but they're actually hindering what God wants to do in your life. And so you've got to unkink from that. You got to like disconnect from that and allow yourself to step into what I have for you.
Yeah, and that's a big thing.
Huge.
It's been a big shift. We took our staff to a pastor's conference, and I was wrestling with a lot of that stuff. And one of the pastors there spoke, and he talked about how you have to unkink your flow. And I'm a prop guy, you know?
Yeah.
So he brings a water hose out on stage. I shouldn't be saying it because then I can't do it. Well, I'll do it later someday.
It doesn't matter.
So he brings a hose out on stage.
You
he's
have eyes to plagiarize.
Yeah, he's got a hose, and he's filling this thing with it. And he kinks the hose, and the water stops coming out. And he said, some of you are connected to things that are kinking the flow of what God wants to do in your life. And it was a confirmation. It was a breadcrumb to me that was God saying, you're hearing me right. What I'm telling you to disconnect from, you're hearing me right.
I know it's an alteration.
It's an alteration.
Of your expectation.
Right.
But it's undeniable that I'm speaking it to you.
Yeah.
And so if you've ever had these moments where God's been speaking something, but then suddenly in your life there's all of these supernatural confirmations, even if it alters what you thought it was going to look like, you can be clear and trust that God is speaking a holy shift in your life.
I remember when we were in the argument negotiation process with the city about the land swap, something that I said in a meeting about us building on the land, I said, I'm going to have my funeral in this building on this land. And when I said it, God said, I didn't tell you that. And I was trying to manipulate something.
Right.
Right? I'm trying to spiritualize, pastor this thing in a meeting. And God says, I didn't tell you that. And just that was a breadcrumb to me of God saying, I have another plan. I'm about to alter what you think. Truston, you're fighting so hard to build this building that you're saying you're going to be up for the rest of your life till you die. You're going to have your funeral in this building? Come on, bro, that's dramatic, right?
Right.
And he altered what he was speaking to me.
Yeah.
And so sometimes God will speak things that alter your plan, and you got to listen to those.
No, it's so good. It's so important. Okay, the next one is obvious alignments and intersections. There are sometimes obvious moments. In the church, we call them like divine appointments.
Yeah.
But they're obvious intersection, connection moments where once you get to that intersection, there's no going back.
Yeah.
You're not doing a U-turn. Now you're moving forward, you're moving to the right, to the left. Something's changing, and they're aligning, and God's doing it.
Yeah. So when we first went and toured the new building, our prayer had been the whole time, God bless us.
Yeah.
Bless us.
Yeah.
Bring somebody along who will answer our prayer.
We have a need, and we need a building, so do it for us.
But the truth is that what God has done in this whole story is he has used us to bless other churches.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that God said, I'm going to make a way for y'all, but I'm going to use y'all to make a way for somebody else.
Right.
Because you see, there's two other churches that are in the mix of what God's been doing here with more church. We're celebrating, we bought a building. But you know, there's two other churches that are celebrating this move too.
Right, right.
One of those churches, Connect Church, they've been praying that they would be able to purchase their own building, that they'd be able to find their own space that they could buy. And it just so happens that we had a building that was for sale.
Right.
We had our North Campus. And so the timing again lines up.
You know what's incredibly crazy about the whole story is that when you find out more things, when you find out more details that you never knew, God can show you clearly that he's aligning things. And so what we found out was we acquired the North Campus building back in November of 2021. And what we didn't know is that a week before that, Connect Church had a kind of a conversation. They had come to a point where they no longer could afford their mortgage. They could no longer afford to be there. And the Spanish church that was meeting there on Saturdays had come to them, and they kind of gave them a couple scenarios. We can buy your building from you, and you can lease it back to us. We can merge together, and you can become, gracia in Spanish is grace. And so you can become Grace Church, the English church of our Spanish church. There's a couple options of what you can do. And they met together, and they prayed, and they felt like God said, no, you're not supposed to merge churches because I have more for you. And they said they voted together and decided that they would stay a church. They would sell their building. Can you imagine how humbling that is as a church to sell your building to another church and say, okay, we'll lease it from you? But they said, no, we believe that God has more. That's what he's clearly speaking to us. And so we're going to go ahead and sell our building, lease it back from them, and trust God. And it was that very same 2 days later, actually, that we closed on the North Campus. And what their decision did, I believe, in heavenlies, the Bible tells us that what we can loose things on earth and they'll be loosed in heaven, right? Their decision to say, God, we trust you, and to not step in fear,
right,
but to step in faith.
Right.
Not what feels safe, but knowing you're secure, unlocked and unleashed the ability for God to say, okay, then I'll keep doing my plan. I'll keep doing my plan in your life. I'll keep, instead of making you go around the mountain again and again and again, here, now it can go. And so 2 days later, we closed on the North Campus. And what's incredible about that is that God spoke to us to sell the Matlock building.
Yeah.
And that was confusing
and
not,
scary.
super scary, because we were literally homeless. But we had no idea that within that short amount of time, God would provide us this new building. This church would not have been able to afford our Matlock building.
Right.
It was a higher cost building, a higher expense to sell that, right? But they were easily able to afford our North Campus. God does these little breadcrumb things that then align and intersect in a way that shows you he was meeting our need and their need all in the same moment.
And they wrote down in their minutes of their board meeting, they said, we believe God has more for Connect Church.
Right.
And then we just happened to come along. And when we tell them that our name is More Church, they were hair blown back, like amazed that this is what God had been speaking. And this is how God aligns things. And so sometimes there's obvious alignments and intersections. And even though it didn't look like your plan, you can't deny that it's his.
Right.
And that's where we found ourselves.
You know, I don't know if you've ever bought a house and you have like these lists and specific things that you're like, God, when we buy this house, it has to have these things. You know, for us, there were things we kept speaking out over the building, that it would have a giant lobby for connection, like that it would be off the freeway. We just had the wrong freeway. We didn't understand what he was speaking, but it was clear that God is answering us our little detailed prayers, but in bigger ways than we even imagined.
And so it's a blessing to Gracia Church.
Right.
They're purchasing a building in Fort Worth, which is where a lot of their people live and where they want to really plant roots down to do ministry.
Right.
And now, because they're out of this mortgage, they have the freedom to be able to go and do that.
It's incredible.
It's incredible. Last point.
Last one. Okay, last one is that when it's a holy shift, there will be peace and confidence beyond guarantees. That you will walk and go where the peace is. You will confidently walk in peace, even if you don't have guarantees.
Because right now, we don't have any guarantees. As I talk with mentors and other pastors, they say, hey man, this is a crazy move that you're making. You're leaving one city, moving to another city. That's it's not far away. It's only an 8-minute drive. But they're like, this is a big move.
Right.
And I don't have any guarantee that all of y'all are coming.
Yeah.
In 3 weeks, the church that I've worked for 13 years to grow could be half the size.
Right.
I don't have any guarantees, but I got peace.
Yeah.
I got peace. This is what God's called us to do. I've got a confidence that even if that happens, God's with me.
Yeah.
And if he's with me, who can be against me?
Right. You know, it's important because we were talking about it this weekend. I told Truston, like, I just want him to hear what I would tell anybody over coffee. And the amount of times I've met with people that have said, like, but how do I make the decision? How do I know what's right? Literally, both seem like they could be good. Both seem like they might be the right decision. Both seem logically correct. The answer is always go where there's the most peace.
Yeah.
And so as we're walking into this next season, we're walking in so much peace. Like, the truth is, all the transparency, because that's how we roll, the two of us have had some massive PTSD.
Yeah.
If you don't think that standing up here last Sunday announcing there's more had some PTSD of the last time we stood up here and said there's more, we had it. But there was this peace, this undeniable confidence that even though my history tells me this might be scary, I don't have to be afraid because I have the faith to know that he's with us.
Yeah.
And that if he's with us,
Yeah.
he's going to give us every place we put our feet.
Yeah.
Read it.
It's hard sometimes to
Yeah.
change and to step into the unknown because I'm the one who preached charge.
Right.
And charge 2. I'm the one who said there's more Sunday, there's the land swap. I know
Right.
we talked about there's a legacy of more. And it can get real scary of like, well, God, what if this one isn't right?
Right.
But when all of those things of the points line up and you start to realize that you've just been following heavenly breadcrumbs to
Right.
get to the location you need to be, to get to the
True.
location that he wants to take you, you realize that it's his will. And God says this to Joshua in Joshua 1 verse 3. This is before all that other stuff. God said, I will give you every place where you set your foot.
Yeah.
Every place you set your foot. And can I tell you, he'll give you every place you set your foot.
It's true.
In your business, in your family, at your job place,
Right.
in your aspirations. I challenged you on the week that I talked about new wineskins to get a new vision for yourself.
Right.
That as you get a new vision for yourself, God will give you everywhere you set your foot.
Yeah.
Everything that you claim for what God has for you, he can give it to you if you'll just
Right.
keep on believing.
Yeah, and you know, the truth is, even with the peace and the confidence, there's still going to be opposition.
Yeah.
There's still going to be somebody who's from Mansfield that's like bougie and is like, Arlington? I don't want to go to Arlington. You live in Mansfield. Like, you don't even have HEB yet. Calm down. But like, there's going to be people who don't want to spend the extra 40 cents a week on the gas, right,
Yeah.
of the 8-minute drive, even
Yeah.
though they already went there for lunch later that day, right? Like, there's going to be people who, don't have their chair that they want, and they're going to be sad about it. But the truth is, we know that this is where God has called
That's right.
us.
We know it's where God's called us. And I'm excited about what he has
That's right.
for us there. And I don't know how he's going to do it or what it's going to look like.
Right.
But I know that I'm finally off the throne.
Yeah.
And that he's going to do exactly what he wants to do.
No, it's true. You know, there's so much peace and confidence
Yeah.
because I'm off the throne,
Yeah.
because you're off the throne,
Yeah.
because we're off the throne.
Yeah.
There's so much peace and confidence.
And we know because of that the best is yet to come.
That's right.
I don't know what more church is going to look like in 3 years, but God does.
That's right.
I don't know the families that are going to be saved and
Come
the
on.
children that are going to be connected to God. I don't know the restoration and the number of salvations and how many people we're going to baptize. I don't know what God has,
Right.
but he does.
That's right.
And I look back at what he's done in the last 3 years,
Come on.
and he says these next 3 years are going to blow your mind.
Yeah.
Come on.
What he can do now locally and globally, what our trailers will actually be used for in the future, maybe to plant more campuses, maybe to bless other churches. We have no idea yet all the more that he has, but we know that there is more.